Hello, I'm Matthew Weinstock with Hospitals and Health Networks, reporting to you live from San Diego and the Health Forum American Hospital Association Leadership Summit. The meeting officially got underway yesterday with a rousing keynote address by Dr. Donald Berwick, former CMS administrator and current Massachusetts gubernatorial candidate. I'm joined now by Dr. Berwick to talk about some of the challenges he laid before the audience. Dr. Berwick, thanks for being with me today.
It's a delight. Thanks for having me.
So you challenged the field in your keynote address to take on the monsters that are currently under the bed, if you will. Can you expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it's a metaphor, of course. But we're through a glorious maybe decade or decade and a half of getting our teeth cut on improvement. Many hospitals in the country understand how to make things better. We know patient safety is an issue, and we want to tackle it and are learning how to do it. I saw wonderful examples here at the HRET safety meeting. And, we understand some of the leadership deeds. It's kind of like we've been doing the warm-up game, calisthenics. My point is it's game time now. America depends on the transformation of the hospital industry for its very survival right now as a vibrant economy and a great society. We're going to have to change healthcare for real now, everywhere. And to do that, it's a whole new level of barriers in our mind, barriers in the payment system and in the structures we have built. But these leaders, the leaders here at this meeting, they're the only ones that can do it. And I'm challenging them to get over the assumptions of the past and into some new ones. And the assumptions they're going to need, the talents they're going to need, the commitments they're going to need, they're not familiar, they're scary.
This is something you've obviously talked about for decades now. Why do you think it is we're still trying to get over these hurdles of addressing some of these scary situations?
Change of this magnitude is very, very hard, and the tension has to rise high enough that the status quo simply becomes unsustainable. You don't jump until there's no choice, and now there's no choice. And I think that the time has come. Up until now, there was a game afoot, and you could play the status quo and win repeatedly. And that's still a bit true now, but I don't think it'll stay that way. And winning, after all, for healthcare is not winning for America or for society. Others lose. When healthcare continues to take the percentage of the gross domestic product it's taking now, when it doesn't attend to its own waste, when it assumes it has to do things the old way, the losers are not in healthcare, they're elsewhere. It's our schools, it's our museums, it's our laborers, it's our corporations, and I think it's time to stop.
You spent obviously a lot of time in Washington, and so there's always this criticism that it's the system that's holding us back, but we're seeing some innovations in the field. So, where do you see that headed?
It's a dance. I mean, the system does hold us back. The system of payment, regulation, training, those legacy systems, they are not rooted in the future, they're rooted in the past. And so, yes, of course, the payment system reflects the current world. We need to build a new one. And so we have to both change the context as fast and as much as we can, get out of fee-for-service payment, for example, into a much more integrated payment scheme, change the preparation of professionals so we're much more ready for teamwork and reliability and safety, the things that are now imperative. That has to change. But, it isn't enough of an excuse, I think, for the American hospital or the American healthcare delivery system to say, well, I got to wait. I'm not going to change till the context does. It's not leadership, and it isn't going to work. You'll find yourself behind the context pretty soon.
So does it trouble you when 9 organizations drop out of the Pioneer ACO project, for instance?
No, I mean, I wish they'd stayed, but plenty stayed. And I think that, it's proof that we're changing. I mean, if it was an easy shot, they might all stay, but it wouldn't be the change we need. So, it's a bit like, it's boot camp. Not everyone's going to make it right now. They will eventually, but there'll be enough there to show us the future. And by the way, I think that the overall water level is changing. As I go around the country and visit hospitals and professionals and strategists and organizations, I think they see what I see, which is new game.
A couple of things you referenced in your keynote address on Thursday was science and learning. And I was hoping you could expand on that a little bit and how important those two things are for this evolution.
Yeah, I just 4 areas of challenge. We'll call them monsters. Monsters because, like a monster, you don't want to look at it. You want to run away from it. One has to do with the way we think about gathering new new knowledge, and that involves really a renewal of commitment to science as a basis for action, not just necessarily formal laboratory science, but we ought to be doing for patients exactly what helps them and nothing that doesn't. And to do that, we have to have the knowledge, we have to have the research and the data to say, I think, Matthew, this will help you, but this won't. And that now is ran aground on accusations about rationing and I don't know, whatever, but it's the only way I want to get taken care of for the things that help me. The other form of knowledge that I mentioned, among others, is global thinking. We're not the only country struggling with this, and the idea that it's un-American or disloyal to ask, well, how do they do it elsewhere? What are the other countries, including, by the way, developing countries, how are they dealing with these issues? We would learn so much. And I don't have much patience with this rhetoric that it's un-American or socialist to ask how others are doing it. Let's find out. Maybe they have an idea that we could use.
Which is obviously something that came up time and time again during your time in Washington, was it?
Yeah, I became a symbol of the Affordable Care Act, and opponents said I was favoring, importing the British healthcare socialism. And no, I'm in favor of asking how other people do things, because maybe I can use it.
One of the other things you said in your keynote was, wouldn't we like a healthcare system that keeps people out of the healthcare system, which is really a provocative thought for a crowd of hospitals,
sure,
hospital leaders.
Sure. Well, we didn't never build a healthcare system. We built a sick care system. And so that's what you get paid for. And you make your money when someone's ill. Now, doctors and hospitals, they don't go around plotting ways to make people ill. But when you say, shouldn't we take this investment and move it over towards staying healthy, staying at home, staying well, staying functional, why don't we try to empty hospitals instead of fill them? Because that means people are home with their loved ones, where they want to be. Well, that runs counter to the business models that came out of the legacy system. It's a massive transition. And I actually think that everyone probably would agree on the destination. Who could argue that keeping hospitals full is a better plan for society? I don't think that's a very rational viewpoint. Well, if it's not a better plan for society, then maybe society should shift the game so we're paying for what we want, which is to be home. That means the CEO that's getting rewarded for high occupancy is in an old game. And maybe the new one is stay home. We'll help you.
And you see some of that mindset shifting now?
I think so. I know so. I can hear it in boards, executives, clinicians, in the newspapers. The problem isn't so much the destination, it's the transition. And that's that other monster, another of the monsters I was talking about. How do you get there from here? I built this hospital. It has to stay full to make margin. We have debt. We have to pay it off, and that depends on volume. But I want to be a system that's focused on health and keeping people home. How do I get there? How do I deal with the debt? How do I deal with the capital? How do I retrain the workforce? Those transitions are difficult and not solved, actually. I actually think it'd be a great enterprise for the American Hospital Association to take that on and say, draw the transition plan. It's not quantum physics. It's orderly thinking and planning for the new day.
Do you feel like there's a skills gap in the leadership at hospitals to get to that point? Or do you think that hospital leaders are able to approach that?
I can't imagine that if hospital leaders decided that the new day is here and that integrated care, team-based care, home-based care, telemedicine, keeping people home, not here, is the right way to do it. We have all the talent and knowledge we would ever want to figure that out. We'd have to do it as a team. I don't think that'd be figured out by the CEO, but yeah, the senior team with the clinicians and the patients, I think we could do it. There are changes in regulation and payment that would help, licensure, the way we pay, and we should be arguing for that. We say, we will deliver better care, better health, and lower cost. We can do it. We promise to do it. We guarantee to do it under the following circumstances. So change the circumstances. That's the dance between the environment and the care deliverer.
One of the things that got perhaps the biggest applause for you at the keynote was the statement that healthcare should be a right, or that healthcare is a human right. Are you seeing that mind shift as well?
Yes. I mean, in our hearts, we know that, don't we? How can we live in a country where I can walk down a street and see an injured person and who can't get care or has to go bankrupt to get care? That isn't right. It doesn't feel humane, doesn't feel civil, doesn't feel American. And I think that people kind of understand that we need to get there now. they're worried, it's very expensive now. Is that more expense am I arguing for? The answer, of course, is no. My whole point is that through improvement, by reducing unnecessary illness, reducing unnecessary care that doesn't help anybody at all, getting rid of waste, making administration much less complex. There's so much money in the system that could then be devoted to universality. But I think the aim, we must share it.
I want to come back to the safety front for a minute. You said you visited the HRAT, Hospital Engagement Network sessions that were here earlier. Just talk to me a little bit about what you saw there and what encouraged you.
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, 400 people from hospitals all over the country. I think there were 47 states there. I can't remember the number, something like that. And poster boards. So you could go up to a hospital in West Virginia or Nebraska or Indiana, all the way from big ones to little. There's one was a six-bed critical access hospital showing what they're doing. 0 falls for 1 year. Almost getting rid completely of surgical infections, transforming the way they're addressing patient involvement. And they're so proud of it, and they're doing it the right way. They're experimenting their way to better. When something goes wrong, they have the knowledge now to figure out why. And one by one, the nurses and doctors and technicians and managers who were standing at these posters, real pride, were saying, look at what we've done. I thought it was just fantastic. And of course, thousands of patients are better off. They're not getting the infection. They're not falling. They're not having any complication. I just think it's terrific.
So as you look at the HEN project, which is coming towards a conclusion at the end of this year, unless they renew it for next year, how do you think they carry that on over the next decade?
Well, first, let me say that I think it would be bad policy not to renew it. I think it'd be very unfortunate. That would mark to me a misunderstanding of how valuable the HEN system is, and how much the healthcare world is ready to use it, and how much big the payback is. So I surely hope that policymakers make the right choice here, which is continue the public investment in the learning and process through the HENs and in other ways. I hope it would be carried on. These are transformed people, not just processes. I think they're getting the idea that improvement is possible, that it is at least more meaningful in your work, if not better for the healthcare business. And it often is better for the healthcare business. So hopefully there's momentum established. But if I were in charge, we would have public investment in global learning and change like the HENs for a decade more. I think the return on investment will be phenomenal, and I think we'll be short-sighted to stop it.
And just to conclude here, I want to come back to your current job of running for governor of Massachusetts. Just tell us how that's going, and how would that compare to your time in Washington?
I'm very excited, but the time in Washington was glorious. I got to see what government can do, how the dedication, the spirit of the civil servants, and they really want to do the right thing. Like in all systems, leadership mattered. And when you go to the people of, in my case, CMS, and said, you're great, you're trying to do important work for 100 million of your neighbors, they need you, there's meaning in what you do, and we're going to do this together. They rose to it. And the quality improvement notions that work in a hospital intensive care unit, they work in a government agency. We have big problems in America. We need to restore trust in the American public that we can solve big problems, that we can get to the moon if we choose. And I think that doesn't just apply to healthcare. That's about education. It's about our infrastructures. It's about cleaning our environment and becoming energy independent and reducing carbon and preserving our future. And I think the improvement idea, involvement, ambition, trust, constant learning can apply anywhere. And were I to be able to help lead a state, that would be what I'd say. I want to create a great example of a learning state. A place where we really do things and get them done because we're doing them right.
Great. Well, best of luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Matthew.
And I'm Matthew Weinstock, reporting from the Health Forum American Hospital Association Leadership Summit. Thanks for tuning in.